There is a place in the state of Georgia where no criminal ever wants to go. That place is called Alto State Prison, formerly Lee Arundel in Alto, Georgia. If you come here, you surely won't make it out.
Stay tuned for Tales from the Toe.
Dude Dirty wore a poop Shiesty mask. Chapter 1. The Man Called Dude Dirty. Alto State Prison in Georgia wasn't a place where time moved forward. It spiraled, circled back, and often stood still. Inside its high stone walls and razor wire fences, the years melted together into a single monotonous stretch. Yet for Dude Dirty, time had not only passed, it had eroded him. Born Willie Leroy Jackson in LaGrange, Georgia, he was nicknamed Dude Dirty long before he became inmate number 990102, a designation he had carried for 24 long years. Dude Dirty was once the kind of man who commanded respect, walking the prison yard like a general among soldiers. But now, the prison landscape had changed. The younger inmates, barely old enough to drink legally, had begun to dominate the yard. They wore their pants sagging down to their asses, spoke in slang so dense it might as well have been a foreign language to him, and called each other slime and twin, like they were part of a secret club. The Dirty didn't like to admit it, but he felt old. Chapter 2. A Midlife Crisis. At 54 years old, Dude Dirty stared at his reflection in the dull, scratched mirror above the metal sink in his cell. He rubbed a hand over his bald head, glancing down at the electric trimmer he had traded 8 honey buns for. Keeping his head shaved wasn't vanity, it was strategy. Gray hair was a giveaway, a signal to the younger crowd that he was one of them old niggas. In prison, where respect could mean the difference between survival and victimhood, appearances mattered. He had started mimicking the younger men, sagging his prison-issued khakis just enough to look current, but not ridiculous. He even scratched out the 990102 on all his state-issued clothes, erasing the evidence of just how long he had been locked up. Everyone in the Georgia Department of Corrections knew your GDC number told the story of your arrival. The first 2 digits revealed the year you entered the system. For Dude Dirty, that 99 was a scarlet letter. Chapter 3. New Roommate. One muggy August afternoon, as the sun blazed over Alto, the cell doors clanked open for shift change, and Dude Dirty's solitude was interrupted by the arrival of a fresh face. The kid couldn't have been older than 22, his skin unblemished by the years of stress and fights that came with prison life. "Yo, old school," the young man said, putting his mattress and net bag on the top bunk. "I just pulled up from Coastal Diagnostics. They put me in here with you." The Dirty nodded, sizing him up. The youngster was around 2 inches taller than Dude Dirty's 5 feet and 9 inches, but he was skinnier than an umbrella pole. "What they call you?" he asked. "My name Lil Reese, straight out dat Zone 6. He replied, referring to the section of Atlanta he was from. The Dirty snorted, his voice gruff. "Everybody Lil something on the streets these days." Maurice chuckled, unbothered by the jab. He started unpacking his bag, lining up his hygiene products on his locker box's tiny shelves. "So, OG, how long you been down?" The Dirty froze for a moment. He had rehearsed this lie countless times. "Couple years," he muttered, keeping his eyes averted, not wanting to appear to be some old, washed-up inmate who had wasted his life in prison. Chapter 4. Tales from the Outside. Lil Reese was a talker, and soon their cell buzzed with stories from the outside world. He told Dude Dirty about TikTok challenges, women getting rich selling pictures of their feet online, and rappers with names so strange they sounded like comic book characters. "You ever heard of 21 Savage?" Maurice asked one evening, lying back on the top bunk with his hand smoking an illegal roll-up cigarette. The Dirty looked confused. "The hell kind of name is that? Sound like somebody that don't wipe good?" Lil Reese burst out laughing. "Nah, bruh, he a rapper from that east side like me. But peep game, we out there wearing ski masks, now called Pooh Shiesty masks, 'cause the rapper Pooh Shiesty wore 'em 'fore he got locked up." The absurdity made Dude Dirty laugh, a rare sound these days, but the idea stuck with him. A ski mask, a mask to hide who he really was. The conversation gradually shifted over to sexual topics, and Do Dirty wanted to know what the new sex craze was out in the free world at the moment. Lil Reese spent the rest of that night telling his old bunkmate about eating ass. Do Dirty had heard about it, but had never experienced the seemingly disgusting-sounding pleasure. "So dudes is out there pulling bitches' panties down and sticking they tongues back there?" he asked unbelievingly. "Hell yeah," Lil Reese answered. "That's the first thing a girl wants done." He continued, laughing as he went into a story about one light-skinned girl that accidentally farted in his mouth one night as they got busy after a night at the club. Chapter 5. Do Dirty does the unthinkable. Do Dirty spent the next day fantasizing about sticking his tongue up in someone's backside, wondering how it'd taste. What his new bunkmate didn't know was he was a notorious booty bully. His name stopped ringing bells for rainbow activities the past few years, though, because he had slowed down and stopped chasing after men's cheeks because he was tired of all of the violence that came with the ones who didn't want to give it up so easily. In fact, he hadn't taken a man's cheeks from him in over 5 years now, settling for pleasuring himself with his hand and the occasional B11 when the urge hit him, which is Georgia Department of Correction penal code for masturbating on a corrections officer. After hearing all of the talk about eating ass by his new roommate, he started getting erections at the thought of eating another man out, as if that man was a woman. He wanted to try it and see what the hype was about. As the guard came in the dorm to announce lockdown for the night, Do Dirty got under his dingy prison-issued blanket and waited for Lil Reese, who had just finished eating a fat, bean-laced burrito, to come in their room for lights out. In the wee hours of that night, Maurice's 5'11" frame tossed and turned in his top bunk as he had a dream about being on a 50-foot yacht with a rapper named Gunna as he shot a music video. There were lots of sexy girls on the boat, so Lil Reese grabbed a thick, brown-skinned girl's chunky cheeks and she yelled, pushing him over the boat's railing. Lil Reese was skinny but strong enough not to fall in the water, hanging onto the yacht's rail for life. The dream turned into a nightmare, though, when he thought a shark or some other sea creature's teeth had gotten snagged in his thin swim shorts because he felt them being pulled down to his ankles as he held onto the boat's rail yelling, "Stop!" And when he felt a gush of liquid squirt up inside of the brown hole below his back, followed by something ticklish and squishy, as if a baby octopus was crawling in between his cheeks, he awakened in terror to see his roommate, the Dirty's face glued to his backside, as he hung over the side of their bunk bed, grabbing the bed rail as if it was the boat. "Old school, what the hell you doing, bruh?" the youngster yelled at the middle-aged monster before elbowing him so hard he broke his facial skin, drawing blood. Do Dirty was shorter than the young boy, but he had learned a few tricks during the 2 decades behind bars and pulled out a sharp candy bar, pressing it to Reese's neck and threatening to pour him out if he didn't let him finish tasting. With nothing else to do because they were locked in the cell, Morris just lay on his stomach while Do Dirty licked him like a human lollipop. And when the dirty old man instructed the young boy to sit on his face, wanting to eat from a different angle, he got an unpleasant surprise. While grabbing Reese's bony cheeks as they hovered over his face, he accidentally poked the young boy with the blade, causing him to panic, which caused him to involuntarily release his bowels. That 3-pound burrito he'd eaten earlier came gushing out in the form of diarrhea all over the booty bully's withered face in the form of a mask. And when he wiped away enough of the smelly, gooey matter to form 2 eye holes and a mouth hole, it looked like he was wearing the first ever poop Shiesty mask. Lil Reese took advantage of this distraction to snatch the blick out of the creep's hand and plunge into his neck and face over 30 times until Do Dirty stopped moving. 2 hours later, as the first shift guard did her first count of the morning, she looked in the men's cell door window in shock, calling the code immediately. Maurice attempted to fight the case, claiming self-defense because he was raped, but because Do Dirty didn't penetrate him, his defense failed, and he was given a life sentence to add to the time he was already serving. Do Dirty's only surviving relative, a 28-year-old daughter who resided in Orlando, Florida, refused to come collect his body, so Alto Prison officials buried him in the cemetery on the western flank of the prison grounds.